We're back, guys. If you game, I feel sorry for you. It was a clown fiesta in the most pure sense of the word. We had Master Yi Taric versus Nunu Karthus. And the Master Yi got 3 kills to start off the game, and you can imagine how it ended.
It's just really interesting looking around social media and people responding to this game. So a lot of people love it, right? If you're just watching it, it was obviously fast and fun in the old Dominion way, I guess you would say. But
yeah.
The gameplay really does echo kind of other MOBAs, right? When it comes to having a single hyper carry, when it comes to funneling. It's very interesting to watch because you don't see a lot of funneling in League of Legends. We haven't had everyone is about this one person. We had, I guess, Juggermore, right? But yeah. Juggermore was this poor little Cogmore, has to position in certain ways, hasn't got that early game. It's very interesting to see where this all goes, but the kind of thrust of this particular game was the sword of Master Yi getting a triple kill and then another 2, and the game was kind of over from there. There wasn't really too much to remark upon other than to sit back and be amused by how fast Yondu was killing people.
I mean, that was against the Lucian, one of the main carries of BBQ, and he was level 15. He was 3 levels behind Yondu at this point, and there was just nothing he could do. He couldn't get away. There wasn't even a Taric ultimate on him. There was really nothing to try to, you know, save Yondu here. He just went in and did it by himself at that point. That's just how fed he was. And we're going to take a look at the game facts. This should be fun. 20,000 damage goes over to Master Yi, 12,000 for Ornn, and the rest of the team doesn't matter.
I would argue in any stats, a mid laner, again, we have to loosely use that term, but the mid lane Taric ended the game with 1,857 damage in the victories. So probably the lowest ever. We had the longest game ever last season. I'm going to call it now. Least damage dealt by a mid laner in a professional game. Didn't matter, though. It was all about Master Yi. He killed everyone. Nothing could be done to stop him. Only to his QSS. More Malmortius didn't even care about the Karthus. The game was over.
At least Bono didn't break any least damage for losing jungler records tonight. Even on the Nunu. So, you know, he's got something going for him. We're going to take a look at the MVP.
Who could the MVP be?
I don't know. Maybe it should
I thought
be
Ian was very influential this game.
I thought the Fiddlesticks jumping in and, you know, waving his hands around was pretty good. Yeah, it is going to be Yondu.
The artist formerly known as Beyond will be our first MVP. You know, he didn't have 100% kill participation, but he was 100% of the reason that his team won the game.
At the top, very formally, it just says, you cannot stop Master Yi. And, well, you can't. 12-0-3. He had the entire team behind him. Ornn for CC, Fiddlesticks to wave his hands around, Taric for the ultimate, Lulu for the ultimate. Couple of shields and heals in there, but that's all you need. The Master Yi got fed, and he took the game away with it.
But we needed to see that game because we saw these games in solo queue. We watched the other Korean solo queue, other challenger players play comps like this, and I looked at MVP and said, they're, of course, going to be primed to go for this. But BBQ started it by locking in the first pick Nunu. We knew where that was going. So did MVP. Yeah. And remember, this was not Taric Yi versus Invasion. This was 2 comps doing the same thing. Yi just did it better.
Yeah, we'll see if they change it up here. Let's go to pick and ban, oh boy, for game number 2. So how will things swap? Now MVP will be on the blue side, so they might have a different idea of how to ban things out on this side.
Will we just see the Master Yi ban come in from BBQ? Now, again, I don't know if it's necessary. It sounds like an insane thing to say, right? But yeah. I need to see Master Yi Taric versus, say, Lulu Xin Zhao and have someone actually be able to contest him at camps. Both teams chose the same strategy of sacking mid lane to just farm everything on the map, the farm fest, if you will. I need to see Master Yi Taric work against a comp that is about invading and attacking. We're not going to see it this game.
Yep, the E will be taken away. You mentioned before there are other options. We could see them try to go for Karthus Nunu again, BBQ, if it does get over to their side and they have the first 2 picks. There are other stuff like Kale and Twitch and other carries such as that, but we'll have to wait and see if they actually go for it. Nunu's going to be banned, so no more of what we saw in game 1, at least with those compositions.
Now, it doesn't rule out the sack the mid lane strat. Braum and Graves has been played in pro and in solo queue by Yondu and Ian. They actually were playing it in solo queue, the Braum Graves. You can run these other compositions. HLE, who will be playing later today, Hanwha Life Esports, also running those support strategies. So the 2 most famous are gone. Camille banned away. When it comes to first pick, very interested to see where MVP will go. And they may still look at the Karthus. That will be very interesting to see. But Irelia is the safest blind pickable mid laner. Also a flex pick. We've seen Irelia in the bot role or the AD carry role, depending on who you are. Top lane, of course, as well. So flex pick Irelia, the first pick here. And that's the prize for drawing a Master Yi ban.
You can see the recent Korean server challenger pick and ban rate. First ban pick, or first rated ban, and third rated pick. So she is just across the board one of the strongest champions, especially in Korea.
Strongest blind pickable mid lane by a mile. Decent in the duo role in bot lane. I would say average in top lane. She's actually not very strong in a lot of matchups there, but mid lane and with a support, she is very, very powerful. We're going to see the Zoe, who's really hoping, or rather preferring it to be Irelia mid, because we saw yesterday Rookie roll over Zoe, one of the old counter picks in the LeBlanc. There are still matchups into Zoe, but Zoe is considered the other strong blind pickable mid laner.
We'll see if they want to mix it up. The Irelia is not going to go into the bottom lane, at least, as the Lucian is picked up. But again, okay, Leona going to show her face again. We had Alistair and other engaged champions available, but Leona comes in.
And guys, don't get blinded by the fiesta of game number 1, because there's still in pick and bans are a lot of counter picks. And what was the counter pick to Xayah Rakan, and the Rakan in particular? The Leona Zenith Blade follows through the dash, and that is why we saw so much Leona specifically into the Rakan. So we'll see if there's still time for Fiesta. Looks like we've got 2 ranged AD carries, breathing room, bit of zen moment here for everyone. Has the Xayah available, doesn't want to go for the Lovers duo, just going to be the Ezreal here for BBQ.
And we are going to go into the second phase of banning. Nocturne and Graves taken away. No Shen is going to come in this time either. So that does get taken off the board.
When it comes to BBQ, we're thinking they have mid lane and the bot lane duo locked in. So the jungle pick was so important for Yondu. We'll see what the jungle matchup is going to be at. Someone will have to blind pick jungle. Olaf banned away in this particular case. Let's see how BBQ approach this. You can just go for, it's kind of the MSI meta back of just, get the Ornn, pack that one up, and then take whatever matchup you see against it. And they can counter pick jungle through this, and jungle mid lane, access to Scuttles, still very, very powerful.
Singed being hovered here. Another champion that's kind of slowly, on the solo queue ladder. You see it a lot in the top lane. It's pretty good right now, and it is going to get locked in. Should be in the top side. What is going to be the jungler, though, for MVP? Or do they just throw caution to the wind and try to create another cheesy kind of jungler? I doubt it. It's going to be a Skarner hover for now.
When it comes to meta picks, you do think of the Skarner when it comes to last season. That's what they're going to go for. Won't have a lot of assistance, but Singe is all about creating a pressure valve in the top side and doing it all alone. BBQ now are allowed to open up something, but remember, it's not Trick in the role. It is Bono. He did play a couple of carries last season. We just go for something super standard. Sejuani was a famous pick into the Skarner in the past, and super standard it is, as it's going to be the Trundle instead.
Yep, Bono going to have to put his invading pants on, wants to try to fight for those Scuttle Crabs with a very good aggressive jungler that can fight in the rivers with the Trundle, going up against that Skarner. But outside of that, Singed, basically, and the Leona, which, by the way, Max did play in spring, and I'm sure that Ignar played. I do remember a game where Ignar actually played it. Everything looks kind of standard and normal for 8-11.
For this game, at least you are right, Valdez. We're going to have heavy emphasis on 1-3-1 coming through from MVP, Singed and Irelia in the side lanes. Pokegump coming through from BBQ. Interesting thing to me is how much proxy, how much pressure can the Singe create? We saw this attempted by Bwipo back at MSI, and he was unable to get a lot of value from the Singe pick there. It's strong in Challenger solo queue. It will be strong in the pro scene. There is counterplay. Get the right pillar. There's nowhere for ADD to go.
Yep. Well, you guys can see our nice little new CG here. Everything's back to normal, guys. We just had a crazy game in game number 1. And for better or for worse, we are going to see these two teams fight up against each other in what looks similar to, standard old League of Legends.
Hey, we had Fiesta versus Fiesta. How about standard versus standard, just for a palate cleanser?
Yeah, it's you got to prove yourselves on both points, and both teams, I guess, are looking to do that now. The bans kind of forced them into it too. A lot of stuff got taken away. Nunu, Yi, Yasuo as well, Taliyah, no Taliyah jungle or Camille, anything like that. So very standard stuff coming out here for game number 2. Let's jump into that right now with the countdown. Jumping into game number 2. Let's get on to the Rift. Here we go, game 2 of round 1, match 1, LCK Summer. Feels good to be back. We're back here in the Nexon Arena casting, and it was good. You know, it was a bit of a warm-up cast. The crazy shenanigans we had in game number 1 allowed us to warm up our voices, warm up our hearts with the new meta.
The funny thing about game 1, though, is that if you told the fans, oh, sorry, we broadcasted the fun game where people were checking their ping and stuff, and then now we're getting into it, people would believe you because it was such a departure from previous metas. If you hadn't been keeping up, well, it's scuttlebutt about where the meta was going. You'd certainly be surprised, but we will see more games with Nunu Karthus and Master Yi and Target. It will happen again this season at some point. Banned away in this game. And we have a couple more metrics to talk about. We might even be able to use the word rotations non-ironically in this game. What a trend that would be. See how ADD does.
Papa.
And again, we need to, again, single out that ADD has been #1 ranked in Challenger as recently as the past week. He has been burning up the charts in the off-season. Player that's been fairly criticized in the past, kind of a one-note tank player, and even then unable to keep up with some of our other top laners, has had a much better time in solo queue recently.
Yeah, and I feel like in a meta where everything is changing from day to day, it's really important to look at that stat too, because in order to get rank 1, you have to play a lot. You know, on any ladder, even in NA, you have to play so many games to get up towards the top, and you have to be really good to actually hit rank #1. So I guarantee you, ADD has played this kind of standard for solo queue Singed versus Ornn matchup probably 50 times at least. And so he's going to be well-versed, and he's going to be ready to go for this Singed play.
Watching Yondu in mid lane now with the lesser experience. Level 2 ganks are always common.
Well, Irelia can engage from a distance. We got to look at the top lane, though, as ADD is forced to flash. Level 2 ganks coming in from multiple sides.
Got some runes here. Also, some new things. SpoTV has brought Nimbus Cloak on Singed to make him even faster when he pops that. Ultimate, he has the Taste of Blood as well to pick up a bit more sustain as he rolls along. Watching that Rift Herald battle. 2 Rift Heralds, you know how much I love that Valdez when we play together in solo queue.
Scuttle Crabs, yeah.
Double Scuttle Crab for Skarner.
You try to get both. And sometimes it works because, you know, it's solo queue.
Ian, on this Irelia, we saw from BDD monstering at MSI. If you can hold the wave unharassed as Irelia around the mid, actually even better if it's slightly towards your turret, the long-range engage range of that stun makes her such a fearsome proposition, can farm so well under turret. We have anointed her here as the strongest blind pickable mid laner. Even though Zoe's not a half-bad laner herself, she's going to have to cower in fear when that flash is on cooldown.
Yeah. We talked about how we do have double AD carries in the bot lane. Lucian recently on this patch is extremely strong, super good with the new Essence Reaver. Just cycling his abilities. It's basically like he's just darting all over the map for about 8 seconds while that is going on after using his ultimate. And then we see Ezreal with the Rakan. We saw a little bit of Xayah Rakan over in LPL, but deciding to go for the Ezreal instead of the Xayah. What do you think about that, Papa?
We kind of have to unpack the whys of why we're not seeing other champions, and why we've said kind of Kai'Sa, Kog'Maw, Ezreal, and Lucian. Big story there. Critical strike items took a huge nerf. Let's hear Yasuo and can get the double crit amplification passives to get above 100% very early. Infinity Edge is kind of a dead-end item for most AD carries. You power up at 3 items to a nice spot, but the game doesn't end. The game ends way before 3 items. As that fight doesn't end too well for Ignar, they back away. But if you're going tier, Mana Moon, Trinity Force, that's the same power level. Rage Blade's still high power. We don't see the crit AD carries. We do see Ezreal.
He's going to have the help of lots of engage and frontline for his team. The flash, though, Ignar is going to get locked down. He does flash, but the first blood comes in anyway, as that auto attack does follow him under the turret, and Pilot going to pick up first blood.
And this curse may go to 6 matches in a row as MVP once again. They really have leveled up in the offseason. They played in the promotion tournament. They could have been relegated by Kongdu Monster. It went 5 games, if I remember correctly, in that promotion final. ADD it seems like he's not just one person. Apart from the rest of the team, they look so decisive. And remember, this team went, what, 0-12 to start the season until they beat SKT in spring? Yep. This time, they're powered up.
Oh. Just a split second late there, Ignar was. But that's all it takes in League of Legends. We're going to have this fight over the Scuttle Crab. As,
no,
well,
it's not really a fight.
It's 2-on-1. And Bono says, okay, I guess so, you can take it.
100% scuttle rate for Yondu this game. Certainly looking to argue his way to a double MVP to start the season. Really happy. It's very hard to jungle as Trundle when your lanes are kind of hapless. Bot lane right now is a no-go zone. Tent lost his flash, so could have no wave control against Aurelia, which is awkward given that she prospers the most of any mid lane champion if she can have the wave where she wants it. And, you know, top lane's a Singe, so good luck with that. Bono doesn't really have anywhere to go. He's falling behind. Just follows that E again.
Yeah, Max goes in once again and eats a little bit of damage. Just a little trade. Maybe Max going too far. A little bit farther than he actually wanted to. And, well, I mean, for you Singe fans out there, we do get to see a little bit of a more exciting top lane. It's not Shen versus Ornn this time. It's Singe versus Ornn.
It's been a talk of some direct Singe bans. The only indirect ban was that Shirelia's kind of builds a bit more awkwardly, but wasn't a required item on Singe by any means. Dank Seal stacking still in full effect. Got 2 of them here. I am aware it's called Dark Seal, but when it's singed, it's definitely Dank Seal. And the invasion starts. Yondu can go wherever he wants. He's a level up, and he has priority in multiple lanes. He's in a good spot.
Yep. This is what happens. You also have that winning lane down on the bottom side after getting the first blood. No flash on Ignar. And so the bottom lane, Pilot Max, just going to come up here and secure the blue buff.
And Bono basically needs to be where the enemy isn't. So maybe he should just ward one side of his jungle and try and get a lucky vertical jungle, because there's nothing he can do. He has no presence. No one can respond. Very awkward times. Slight movement away from the meta. Another thing that came up through Abel and was first shown in pro play by Prey at MSI is teleport AD carries. Teleport Ezreal, teleport Caitlyn we saw as well. It is teleport Ezreal, but Pilot's actually one of the few AD carries I've seen go heals. So there's even a combat advantage. And with a Leona who needs to commit, that makes a lot of sense.
We're going to have a bit of an engage onto ADD. Let's see if Crazy does go in. Not much mana here for ADD. He's trying to run away. Nice dodging. He's got his Nikes on tonight. Not going to take too much from the Ornn.
Lucky the Searing charge is on cooldown. If that stun hits, actually would have killed Singe. Had enough damage for that, but like you say, Singe able to walk away. Bono's like, oh, somewhere I could be. This ult.
Oh! So close.
That probably would have killed him too. It was about 160 health, so he would have died. Bono,
he's dancing, but he's got to get out of there. Bono's here, and Ornn is pushing the wave. This might just be it for ADD. He's going to flash away.
Where are we going, ADD?
He's got his ultimate. He's fast. He's got his ult going. He's running away, but Zoe's coming up the river too. He's going into the jungle now. Singed is not done, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if Zoe can put an end to this. Gonna try to jump on over, and the flash does come in from Bono, and the excitement does get stomped out as they finally get ADD.
However, he did get the last laugh.
I mean, he always gets the last laugh, right? He is Singed, after all.
All he can call for himself, wasted a lot of time, meant a lot of other people could do whatever they want, and when it comes to those other people, it's Yondu and Ian. They're gonna come and walk up, steal the Raptors, grow that CS lead for the Skarner, but we still haven't seen the first use of the ultimate, so if he can turn those stats into practice with the next move.
Yeah, there are a couple of lanes you might want to consider. If you can get on top of Zoe, who does have her flash back, so it's going to be a bit harder, but that would be pretty much an instant kill. You have way more than enough CC to take her out. She's running Ignite this time around, and no QSS in sight. So going to be hard to get out of any stun, really.
If you're at home wondering why has Singe, seen a bit of a resurgence over recent patches, it's been kind of the most indirect buffs ever.
Yeah.
Like, Singed himself has gotten like incremental buffs over a long time because he hasn't seen the pro play for so long. outside the recent couple of months. But a lot of incremental things. For example, Minion Dematerializer was a buff to him this season because he would struggle to actually push a wave and get the back timing he wanted. When it came to something like a Cannon Minion, now he could dematerialize it. Nimbus Cloak, another indirect buff, because now it makes Insanity Potion even stronger. And then just nerfs to a lot of other things. So it feels like everything else changed, and Singed kind of had his arm raised as a champion in some ways. Speaking of Singed, because of his pressure on top side, they don't have the deep vision that often happens when it's a proxy Singed, but because he's not proxying, plenty of ability to put down the control ward, and ends up being an easy Rift Herald to the side of MVP.
Yeah, and just what you were talking about before, you know, just pushing in the wave. We've always talked about how pushing top laners are really good. Part of the reason why Rumble received a bunch of nerfs back in the day, and, well, he fits very well, right? If there's a Scuttle Crab somewhere on the top side, you want to push in the top lane first so you can help out your jungler with that. It's just so great, and Singed is great at doing it, and it's a lot of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of Singed. And seeing another fight here, Singed doesn't really seem to care, as the ultimate is not going to land. ADD still getting a little bit low. He's going to back off eventually.
One thing that has not been discussed, I believe that top lane priority is even more important than before. I mean, honestly, priority everywhere, so it's not that exciting a point. But the reason why I'm talking about it in this particular case is that Rift Herald is really busted in terms of power. Before Rift Herald, if it fell low, was only doing a percentage of not much HP damage. Now it does a minimum of 1,500. You can get so many turrets if you're able to draw attention and pushing top lane wards a safe Rift Herald take. Rift Herald is a bigger ticket item than it ever was before.
Yep, you can get multiple turrets, or you can get the freest turret of all already with that winning mid lane. They just scooped that one up, and I believe the gold went over to Skarner even, actually. So Yondu gonna have a lot of extra gold, if that did actually go over to him.
Still waiting for AD to reveal his first item. You look at the enemy team, you could understand something like a Righteous Glory. The nerfed Shurelya's could be considered as well. Maybe Merc treads into something to allow him to close that distance. Not that Nimbus Cloak won't do most of the heavy lifting itself. Trundle's still the most depressed. He had to watch Yondu hard carry on Yi, and now he has to watch all his camps be stolen away as Trundle.
Yeah, Bono not having the best day. Should probably go back to doing what he's good at. Go back to doing some more concerts instead of playing League of Legends. But again, he's going to have another buff taken away, or perhaps his life, as he is going to get grabbed here with the Impale. Yondu gets low, and coming in from behind is the Rakan. They do take him out, but he does trade his life. Now Ignar getting extremely low. Irelia all going to come in and secure that kill. Ares trying his best to carry this one. Zoe, Battlestar is going to come in. That's huge damage, and the stopwatch going to keep him alive with a flash. Does give a triple kill to Ian, and he's still going. There's the Quadra, but he finally does get taken out as Crazy has to come in and put the cuffs onto that Irelia. Finally, they get the kill.
Man, Ian popped off in that particular fight. When BBQ tried to trade back, you knew they were going to trade down. There was no ability for them to trade up because of where the gold was out in the enemy team. They trade up in a big way. Crazy might kill Max in the back end for some reason.
Max, he stood still after dodging the Ornn ultimate. Looks like a little bit of BM, but then he got flashed on, so that was unfortunate. Again, but let's take a look.
Consider the scenario. Bono had previously been giving up all these buffs. The collapse comes, but with where the items are at, this has to be a good fight for MVP. It starts 1 for 1, and you think, okay, they can get away. Well, Irelia is the one who decides who shows up and who goes home. She's the principal in this particular analogy. And while the fight looked like it might have been thwarted by the stopwatch, it's actually really big here. Ian wasn't expecting that. The ability to close the fight as Irelia.
Yeah. You know what it is, too? Ares stepped forward, and the Q killed him, so you get the reset on Irelia. And you were talking about the stopwatch, but the second that the Ezreal steps forward and gets killed by the Irelia, you get the reset. Tempt is dead after stopwatch, and then there's nothing you can do. I think that was a little bit of a mistake by our newer AD carry on the Ezreal.
Hasn't got a lot of fun in this particular series. Has young Ares on the Ezreal this time. Ever since they lost that early trade, things have gone from bad to worse in the bot lane. CS lead isn't monumental yet for MVP. Maybe the Ruin King is the rush here, so no Essence Reaver rush just yet from Lucian. Big one-on pass that lets him to stay in lane longer. It's one of the reasons that you will see some people go for the blade early. We back away, we look at the gold lead, it's 3,800 gold, but the 2 Drakes as well. Shows you that MVP have certainly opened up this early game.
Yeah, they're definitely looking like the stronger team, at least in this series. They prove, hey, we get the, we can play the cheese comp a little bit better than you can, right? We're going to identify the early fight and take that and get our Yi fed.
Inarguable, agreed.
And then we can take the standard fight straight up. We're going to draft better than you. We're going to win the early game, which is so important, especially on this patch.
And that's where the sinking feeling comes if you're a BBQ fan, because you can excuse the first game and say, okay, well, we couldn't, we couldn't enact the Fiesta as well as the enemy team.
Yeah.
But then they're losing straight up standard as well, and that is the part where BBQ really will have to look at themselves. It's very hard to prep. They will be playing again in 2 days' time, of course, at the Super Match Day, Super Wednesday tomorrow, with the other 6 teams playing. Ian and Max looking for some more profit. Speaking of profit, that Trinity Force is nice and early for the Aurelia.
Ian's going to be popping off. He loves to play carry mid champions, by the way. Loved to play the Ahri in the past, but now with Irelia in the meta, he's going to be happy with good old new Irelia. Trying to dive onto Pilot here is crazy, but it's just not going to be enough. Looked like Ian even wanted to give that kill to Pilot, but ends up taking it himself, ending at 5-1.
Whoever gets it, doesn't really matter. Crazy knew he was done for. I want to see Crazy's other solo queue pick. He's playing a lot of Essence Reaver Renekton that I'm certainly a fan of, but not going to be seeing that particular abuse case in this game. Bono walks up. Seems like Pilot's going to chill out when it comes to the Essence Reaver. Just go for like a Black Cleaver and amp up the Aurelia damage even further. It's definitely one way you can approach ADD pushing in bot. Here comes a pick attempt.
Well, trying to just blind go into the brush generally doesn't work out for you, but Max is trying to give his life over to give some kills to his team. Bono in a lot of trouble. Here's ADD. Going to be laughing in the face of Ares, actually. Diving on in. Going to get 1 kill for his team. Here comes Ian.
Baby!
And there it's going to go. ADD picks up the kill, and that ends up being a 3-for-1 in favor of MVP.
Giving him an inch, they'll take a mile. Really well done by ADD to walk past the first target. Didn't need to fling. Got the Ezreal. His day's done. Aurelia comes in. The Mighty Ducks basically happening here for MVP. Yeah. Data reference for some of our viewers, but exactly what we're seeing. Flying all across the map. MVP are just overwhelming BBQ.
Yep. That flying V in the MVP working out really well for this team. They looked good in the beginning. In game 1, I was like, okay, well, Master E is pretty busted right now in that composition, but then they come in here and they make it look easy on BBQ. Playing that Singe like a god right now is ADD as well.
And what should you take away from this game? It's not about a single champion, it's who had the early priority in every lane, MVP. That allowed them to play on the front foot. And consider the mini-map here. I know there's action happening, but we saw that already. We don't need to talk about that. Aurelia is walking through no wards, but she's like, I'm stronger than anyone else on the map. We have priority everywhere. I can take the most direct route at every moment because of the fact that we had the early snowball. And when you have the early snowball, Twitch chat, everything falls into place like we're seeing from MVP today.
Yeah. We're very used to seeing sad MVP player faces after they lose. You were talking about their 0-12 streak to start off spring, but they wanted to come in here. They wanted to say, hey, we always beat BBQ. And, well, they're trying to make a statement once again. They want to get their 6th win in a row against BBQ, and they want to start off strong. More importantly, for summer, they're doing exactly that. MVP looking good in this game. We'll be curious to see how they do against some of the, at least mid to top tier teams as well.
Look, I know that is definitely an authentic thing to say, but you can only beat the only team they've been asked to play. It's the first match of the season. Let's just celebrate MVP. I think the sobering moment, like you say, it's likely to come. There's great teams here, but they look so much better than in the past, and they want more.
Going for the trundle, making his life even harder. Nice knockup from the Ornn, but it's not going to be enough. Here comes Ian and ADD, the duo, trying to get into that back line. Ian going to get 1 kill. Can he get 2? There it is. Triple kill, actually, as he got the trundle, too. He does go down in the end, unfortunately. Temp's trying now to carry by himself. Is going to get the sleep onto the Lucian. And he's still on the chase, but ADD from behind trying to make it harder. They will get the kill onto Max on the back foot.
That's a turnaround. They went too aggressive, felt like they were too far ahead. They were 10,000-ish gold ahead when that fight begun. Remember that snowball gold is a thing we have to discuss. A lot of kill involvements for the Zoe, and that particular one It's not going to be a game ender or maybe even a game changer. You can't just press all your buttons under an enemy turret and have it work out with 100% reliability, and this was optimistic from MVP.
Yeah. Curious to see, or to know whose call it was, but the counter engage from BBQ is not bad.
It's a full-on ultimate on multiple members, slows them down. Look at ADD tanking turret. Everyone takes turret damage. The turret probably does the most damage of anyone. Ian dying to the final shot, does about 300 health. He goes down, and you can't disengage from a Zoe who, for once, was not completely well held, and I love the flash from Tempt. He completely weaved in stun there that no one saw coming, certainly not Pilot.
I mean, we said it at the beginning of the broadcast in one of our CGs, but Tempt, generally the guy who tries to carry his team with some flashy mid-play and pulling out the Zoe this time around. He's not going to be on the other pick that he played in the last game. I think that was the Karthus that he was playing. He's going to be a little bit more flashy on this Zoe, and he's looking better. We'll see if he can actually carry his team.
And that's the part, is that unfortunately he doesn't really have much of a supporting cast yet at 20 minutes into the game. And Zoe as a single threat actually is the thing that gets outscaled very hard. Zoe can't do everything on her own. She needs the enemy to be respecting other threats, and they're not there. Ares is too far behind to do big damage. Has some damage numbers, but Ezreal poke is, of course, not necessarily going to be the biggest thing to talk about. He doesn't even have his Muramana even bought. He doesn't even have been able to find enough gold to buy a Mana Moon at 21 minutes. Very, very slow stacking coming through from Ares. So maybe there's a good news story in the future for Tempt, but needs some time for the rest of his teammates to catch up to his pace.
He's sitting on 2 items already. Picked up the Zhonya's first, goes into the Ludens. He's certainly going to be trying to chunk down some of these squishier members in the front line. Aurelia not super squishy, especially with the Finnish Sterix, but the Lucian would be a nice target if you could try to 100-0 him. That would be a good start for an A-team fight.
We are on hotfix patch 8.11, so while there is a banner of command, will be removed on 8.12, but on 8.11 it's hotfix to 40% damage reduction, in case you guys are wondering at home. Just to fully inform anyone joining late, patch 8.11, everyone, including Pyke, available, and the hotfix is live as well.
Yep.
Basically the same game as you guys play at home.
You guys can see the patch version, as always, down in the bottom left. As I say that, they switched that to the round 1 match 1 thing, but it's in that same location. You got to trust me on this. Look at that in just a minute. There it is, 8.11. But now with this lead that MVP does have, the last fight was a little bit sobering for them. They're like, okay, we cannot dive on the enemy turrets just yet. They do have an Ornn. They have a bunch of other CC. Now they're going to be looking at Baron and trying not to throw away their leads, especially with their double Infernal Drake. They're still sitting pretty, but they got to, not doing anything stupid from here on out. And
the gold lead's actually expressed, just like when we were talking about how the Master Yi, Snowball, QSS, and more Malmortius was the kind of unseen thing that really buffed up the chance of sticking the landing for MVP in Game 1. The items here are Knight's Vow and the Zeke's Convergence being done. So they actually have Knight's Vow, Zeke's Convergence, Black Cleaver. They have these Shred and Amp items complete. They don't choose a battlefield, like you mentioned there, Valdez. They really are set up to win. They do have a massive gold lead. For 23 minutes, the double Infernal also working out well. But again, maybe not under the enemy mid lane turret is the learning here for MVP.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can take a look at the minimap right now. All of the vision around the Baron is completely controlled by MVP outside of 1 control ward on the Baron. So MVP, they got to get rid of that, and they should be in a pretty good spot. You guys will notice they just pinged it right now, and they're going to clear that out. Question is, when do they go for this Baron, if they are going to?
Baron damage isn't record-breaking from MVP. It's decent. Aurelia does decent damage. Lucian does decent damage, but neither of them are going to be setting any records. So they do have to set up with a bit more reliability than perhaps some of the other comps. You think of Cassiopeia, Cogmore in old days. Pilot walks up, notably not going Essence Reaver at all. Again, first item by the Ruin King, I think will see quite a lot of play in non-sustain lanes. We don't have a Soraka, and with so many other items being rebalanced, Play the Ruin King's actually a pretty reliable purchase.
Yeah.
A lot of life steal, fits well, always been a Lucian consideration. No Essence Reaver at all is a style choice, but the Essence Reaver is always in this weird spot where if you open a fight with ultimate and then you're in auto attack range, it's godly, right? It's just unbelievably broken on someone like Lucian. If it's mid-fight and you haven't used your ult, you kind of just want to instant cancel it to get the access to the Essence Reaver active. So because it's a little bit finicky in use cases, Play the Rune King will be more reliable because it does the same thing every time. You can kind of understand. If you're not feeling comfortable with it, if you're not feeling confident, if the scrim results don't show it, dropping it's probably not the hugest deal.
Yeah. Also, lifesteal items did get cheaper across the board. I think just Bloodthirster and Blade of the Rune King got affected there. So I think it's about 200 gold cheaper for the Blade of the Rune King. Makes it a bit easier to get as a first item if you are trying to get that as soon as possible. Now, MVP have been taking their time with this one. You know, they're just sitting back. Do you feel like they scale a little bit better than the BBQ? You were talking about Zoe not being the best at scaling into the absolute late game.
I think it's awkward to talk about. Singed in the late game gets outscaled by Ornn, who has a lot more teamfight reliability, of course. The Zoe, if Ezreal is a threat, doesn't fall off as much as you might expect, but I think the Ezreal's still short of that mark. Doesn't have a Ceres, for example, at this point in the game. And the Aurelia has a GA, and right now is obscenely powerful. Definitely don't want to force the fight against the Aurelia. That's what it seems like they were searching for here. So it's kind of a line ball on that. I think Ares has been too slow on his item build, so probably never going to be a big factor. So yes, I would eventually get to MVP. Been pretty happy with the game going long. But I think realistically it's, can we get the Baron start we want, the Baron turn we want, and the game should end pretty fast from there.
Yeah, you can see what they're doing, right? They're clearing the control wards, but now they're getting frustrated because it seems like BBQ never run out of control wards. They're always putting it down in the Baron pit, and you'll notice that the pillar always comes down to aggro the Baron as well from Bono. So it's just been a big annoyance. Another one comes down, and they haven't been able to find a pick just yet.
They spent a lot of gold on control wards. Another 3 picked up on the back from Rakan, but they still have like 3 in the inventory, so they probably had 7 control wards sticking around there. So BBQ, with a gold disadvantage, were able, with gold, to delay the Baron. To what end is the question we'll find soon. As that's a flip.
Nice play there, waits for the charge, and that just might be a little bit too much CC, as Crazy is going to get caught over here by the blue buff. And now that means the Mountain Drake end a push in the bot lane for MVP.
Laws of Skarna don't apply to the Singe. The Singe started, the Singe flipped, and that was where even a flash wasn't going to be able to get Crazy out. Now, with the Banner of Command down, who needs a Baron? They're going to try and break the base on this push.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have that engage from the Ornn anymore. And so you just got to rely on Ignar, who doesn't have his flash. He used it trying to go for that weird engage over by the red side, over by Baron. And so they just have to let a couple of turrets go down. MVP not going to push too far, though. They don't go for inhibitor turrets. They just back off after this.
Definitely showing restraint that they did not show 6-7 minutes in this game ago when they made the misfire under the enemy mid lane turret. It's still growing a lead, though. More extra gold, more local gold, as there is no longer the big purse of global gold to be shared when those turrets go down. Speaking of gold advantage, thanks Spo TV, you can show us mid-game here. It's been tending upwards. There was that leveling off around the 20-minute mark when they would have wanted a spike and kind of the game to end. But it's now above 10,000. Ian is basically got all of his core items, and everything from here is kind of a luxury purchase on the Aurelia. Seems like a Randuin's Omen, which I guess is more for the active slow than for any critical strike reduction in this particular case. They roll through. MVP have defensive items. They have utility. Even ADD can look for some target acquisition, having finished another engage item. Let's see when they feel confident enough to start the Baron. We mentioned already their speed isn't fast enough, but now they can kind of disregard damage, and maybe that's enough to start a Baron.
ADD not going super tanky does take a bit of damage from Tempt, but I mean, he'll be regening up eventually. ADD not with them, and Max is going in alone. He's gonna pay for it all by himself. He goes down, and Ignar's not done. The double knockup with the charm isn't enough though. Ian is coming in now. Bono trying to run away, and there's the flip onto Ares, but they're turning it around. They're gonna be able to get a kill onto one member of a Pilot. With the double kill in the background, is gonna be able to salvage this team fight for MVP.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to a gold lead. That is what a gold lead looks like. Ian does not die through all of that. They turn onto the Baron. Now, Tempt is still alive. He can both steal Baron and kill people with the Paddle Star. So I think MVP might do well to respect him a little bit.
They're going to do just that. Tempt, though, not going to respect them just yet. Going for more kills, but might have just been baited as the damage reduction comes out of the Irelia. Is going to Zhonya's, but it doesn't look like there's any escape. Down he does go. The TP comes in. Nice dodge on the stun by Ares, but you're not getting it out of this one, son. That's going to be the double kill, and it should be the Baron going to MVP.
Man, some baiting upon baiting happening by both teams there. Tempt thought he could poke in for a kill, doesn't get one, does get taken down eventually. Let's do it once more with feeling around the Baron, says MVP, and Yondu's full health, so he's going to be able to tank this one up.
No Rakan steal this time around. They're just going to give that one away. Bono with no flash decides, hey, let's not throw my life away for no reason. Going to be giving away that Baron, and now that is 14,000 gold ahead for MVP, with now the Baron with eyes set on the base.
A little laugh there for ADD. Probably won't find another turret from this. Hoping to get a top lane inner turret on the backside. We watched the replay and the classic Leona conundrum of I want to go in, but sadly my friends can't join me. Dies instantly, but again, a huge gold lead and a champion like Irelia, a bruiser mid laner. It's a fed Zoe in this case when your Leona dies. Zoe just has to poke and say, well, why'd you suicide? When you're Irelia, you can start scrapping. People were getting zoned out, multiple people, by the Singed on the back end. So it didn't matter because they effectively had a numbers advantage, even though it was a 4v5.
Guardian Angel, such an impressive item on an Irelia that's ahead. You have so much extra gold to get that, and it's like, okay, finally we broke through the Sterix, we broke through all her damage reduction, and we killed the Irelia. And then she comes back after the rest of her team, especially the Lucian behind her, kills your entire team. And you said it well in the fight. I mean, that was basically a gold lead. That's what you're going to do when you're this far behind, or rather ahead. Kind of an engage there from Max half-heartedly, as they're just trying to protect this Bannon minion, if you will. Not quite as strong as in the past.
Pretty consequential because it means that Lucian won't have Zeke's convergence when the fight actually starts. The CCB's down as well. Here we go.
Flash on into Ignar, and that's going to do it for him, as he can't quite get away from the flash. And well, they're going to begin pushing in now with that Baron, looking for the ends. Not much that BBQ can do. They're going to try to go with the Ornn ultimate, but he is grounded, and he cannot push it out there. Bono going to go down as well. And that's going to do it. We are going to have MVP going ahead with a 2-0 victory over BBQ tonight.
Big cheer from the crowd. MVP have always had that hardcore, small fan base. Maybe to grow because they showed a mastery of patch 8.11 that everyone here on the side of BBQ really could not come anywhere near to unpacking the, let's say, whimsy of patch 8.11. Really nice stuff from MVP, both in the Fiesta Game 1 with double jungle follow into the much more standard Game 2. They put together a smarter game plan. Did they make some mistakes along the way? Could they have closed Game 2 more cleanly? Absolutely. But we can only judge them on their game today. Impressive showing from MVP. And now if you thought you had an easy opportunity to take down MVP in the first week of the LCK, seems like MVP's no easy win either.
A bunch of the other teams that are going to be playing later today and tomorrow, they're going to look at this. It definitely sets the stage for not just the meta of, okay, we got to beware of Master Yi Taric, Karthus Nunu, and all that shenanigans, but also MVP, as you mentioned. They're a better team this time around, and they're certainly going to be doing good. Bono going to get a nice little massage from his coach, as that was a painful series for him.
The Nunu Game 1, lest we forget, Ian getting the back rub. He had a very nice performance on the Irelia in game number 2, and, you know, he pressed R on Taric, so that was pretty cool as well. Watching the replays here, a lot of order operations things happening as suppression and also the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Well, onto the Skarner. Just a lot of cleanup stuff, and no one really cleans up as well as Master Yi, but Irelia, pretty damn good Master Yi impression.
You can see what Ian does here. Zhonya's comes in, Ares sticks around, makes it easy to pick up that next kill onto Tempt, and man, we've all experienced it in solo Q2, where it's just like the Irelia gets 4 kills, a quadra kill at 15 minutes, really? The question mark pings come out, and then your team loses 10 minutes later. That's kind of what we saw on that one.
If we're going to give a subtitle this series, I think the question mark ping might be the one that we would, Valdez. So
yeah,
thank you very much for that. It was certainly a bit of a question mark ping. And you know, when it's only the first game of the season, we don't know if it's just a speck of dust or if it's in fact going to be the solid truth of what the season is about. But MVP fans would take the season being over after this game. Great performance from them, a 2-0. Those were certainly at premium for them in the previous season, and now we have to once again return to this streak of BBQ and MVP. It's 5 in a row now, Valdez, and they just can't find a way to get through MVP. They were made to look like a second-class team by MVP.
MVP looked really good. I don't want to fall under the spell. You know, we saw Kongnu Monster come out in the beginning of spring, and we were all like, wow, Kongnu Monster, are they actually really good? And then they proceeded to lose to every other team.
We got a pretty emphatic answer of no to that question.
Exactly. So I don't want that to happen to MVP. I know MVP's got a lot of fans, but we'll see. You know, it's only the first game, a fun one at that. And this was a foregone conclusion at some point as Ian was way too fed. ADD helping out. And there you go. On to the game facts. Lucian actually with the most damage in this one.
2 games in a row, the game got to the point pretty early where you knew that if 5 people ran at each other on both teams, MVP would win. And that is what a snowball meta is. That is what we live in. The way it's put together, the champions involved, we've certainly got an extended bench for that. But MVP convincing victors on this particular day. I'd love to hear from them. I'm sure we'll have an interview coming very, very soon. But I need to get in their heads and understand exactly what they think is strong and weak because, you know, they won Standard and Fiesta, and that's pretty cool to see.
Well, yep, the graphs tell it all here. MVP slide away with this one. A quick game in game number 1. Game number 2, 32 minutes. Yondu might get the second MVP here. Let's see who it's going to go over to. Will be Ian on the Irelia, a more obvious choice for game 2.
He shows that he has another pick you have to respect. The Irelia from Ian has to be added. He went a long time. It felt like 2 years it was Syndra or AFK for Ian. He's adding one more. Finally rising up the ranks when it comes to those mid lane picks. Actually, with his recent champions, Irelia wasn't one of the big ones for him, but I think we can send it to the interview now.
Yeah, we'll send it over to Ji-Sun for the translation of the interview, which is now on stage.
Which are Ian and Yondu from MVP. Congratulations on the victory. So a lot of people have been expecting a lot from Team MVP coming into this new meta. So what are your comments about the current patch and the meta? I think it went well as we planned. But I think we still have to see what other teams are gonna bring up in the competitive match. There are a lot of fans chanting your name here, Ian. How do you feel? So it was the first quadra kill of the summer split. It tastes really good. I feel really happy. And I knew that I were gonna be the MVP. Well, it was a very dominant game from MVP, you know. The game was actually very one-sided. Yeah, I think my play was a little bit risky, but we were so much in the lead, so yeah, I think it was really safe for us. So let's have a more talk with Yondu. So this is your new career as a player, Yondu. How do you feel? Well, actually my ID doesn't really affect my play, but it's really happy to win the first game of the season. Well, Yondu is actually a very important character in the Marvels, you know. He's a very big hero. So how do you feel about your performance? So as I heard that I should change my ID from Riot Games. Yeah, they told me there's another player who has a name under Yeondu, Beyond, and he had debuted in the pro scene earlier than me, so I had to change my ID. So my first idea was Yeondu, and I had other several suggestions, but I thought the first thing came in mind was the best one, so I just managed to change it to Yeondu. But I told him to change his ID to Hawa, so as a deal we can be Hawaiian.
와, 진짜 생각도 못했네. 진짜 하려고 그랬어요? 하와이안 하려고 그랬어요?
이게 한 2, 3순위였어요.
It was like the second
피자 올라면 하와이안
second
피자 안
idea, but
아, 근데 일단
Yeondu did not actually manage to change it into Hawa. But as a solo player, Hawa sounds kind of weird, so I just made my mind into Yeondu.
아, 그럼 일단 뭐 1세트로 다시 한번 돌아가 볼게요. 마타 조합이 사실상 그
And speaking of the Mata and Tariq duo in mid and jungle, it's really interesting. But there are a lot of doubt that if it can be as powerful as in competitive games as they are in solo queue. I mean, the game was really exciting, and there were a lot of teammates supporting for me. And I believe that Mari and Tariq composition has very high carrying power, so I think it's really powerful and it's very useful in competitive games.
딜이 0이요 0.
이게 제가 게임
But as a mid laner, it was no fun at all.
내가 이런 챔피언 하려고 미드한 게 아닌데.
Well, I did not become a pro gamer to play this kind of champion in mid lane.
그런 얘기하면 안 돼요. 그런 얘기. 네.
제가 이제 탱커가 재미가 없잖아요.
Well, I actually don't enjoy playing tank champions.
세트 같은 이제 막 이렐리아, 막 마법사 이런 거 하려고.
So when I played Irelia in the game 2,
이제 또 맥스에
I was really happy.
이러려고 미드한 게 아닌데. 우리 속보가
And the breaking news says I did not become a mid laner to play Tariq in mid lane.
네.
제가 이제 다시 그게 리스펙 되더라고요.
아 그래요? 완전 막 영어가 떠오르고 그래요. 해외 진출 노리고.
So I have a high respect on players who play supporting champions in their role.
배고픈 게 있었기 때문에 2세트에 쿼드라도 나오고 트리플도 나온 게 아닌가 이런 생각이 좀 들거든요.
Maybe playing Tariq in the first game gave you motivation to play so well on Irelia in the game 2.
지금 원딜에서 막 별게 다 나오고 있어요. 그러니까 사실 이걸 원딜로 불러야 돼? 라는 얘기가 있을 정도로.
And you know there are a lot of champions coming up in the bot lane, you know.
왜요? 왜요? 아 옆에서 브랜든. 얼굴 나 괜찮아. 우리 발데스. 잘생겼으니까. 아 근데 그러니까 막 계속해서 요번에 그 아직 8.11에 관련된 생각들이
So
좀
speaking of this
헷갈리는 것
current
같은데
patch,
본인이 느끼는 8.11은
so what are your comments about it?
일단은 좀 잘못된 것 같아요.
I think something has gone wrong.
라이엇 디스하는 겁니까?
조금?
Well, I think Riot has
저희가 좀-
done something
이
wrong,
패치로
to be honest.
아마 모든 팀이 진짜
And I believe all the other pro players are really suffering with
진짜
it.
많이 했을 거예요.
네.
저희도 엄청 많이 고생했고 이제 아마 9팀 막 첼코 팀.
Well, you know, all the other 9 teams and all the teams in the Challengers League are really suffering so much to find out what is best for the current meta.
맛있었죠? 오늘 약간 양봉의 느낌이 있었어요. 그래서 근데 어떻게 보면은 다른 팀들 오늘 이거 지켜보면서 이대로 또 준비해 올 것 같다는 생각이 들거든요. 거기다 그 대비도 좀 되어 있는 거예요.
So how are we going to prepare for the current patch then?
요도.
저희는 쓸 수 있으면 언제나 거기에 대한 대비책도 마련을
Yeah,
해놨기
we
때문에
are
네.
planning some other different compositions, and we are also ready to counter this kind of meta.
감독님의 약간 눈물 젖은 그런 얘기 말고 분명히 다른 욕심도 부릴만할 것 같아요. 개막전이 굉장히 좋았으니까.
So you guys had a really nice start today. So what's your goal for this summer split?
일단 이번 여름에는 지난 봄의 악몽을 다시 재반복을
Well, for this summer
하기
split,
싫어요. 그리고
I don't want to go down as we did in the spring split,
더 넓은 세상을 바라보고 싶습니다.
and I want to reach some higher points in this summer split.
우리 이안, 우리 쿼드라 이안, 썸머의
And
최초의
Ian,
쿼드라
with the quadra
이안
kill,
선수.
what is your goal for the split?
1세트는 답답했지만 2세트 잘 풀어냈잖아요. 그래서 2대0으로 마무리가 졌고 이제 쿼드라 킬로 MVP도 얻어냈는데 어떻습니까?
You also got the MVP point, you know.
수많은 팬 여러분들 여기
And you have so many fans out here rooting for you. Is there any last message for them?
일단 개막전 이렇게 재밌는 경기로 끝낸 것
I'm really
같아요.
happy that we got the
일단 본인이
game
즐거워야
with
하는
this
것도
exciting
즐겁거든요.
matchup.
완전.
네, 그게 이제
I'm really happy that I made my fans a little bit more happier today. So thank you for watching me.
이제 재밌고 뭐 멋진 경기력
And
보여드릴
we'll come
테니까
back with better
많이
performance
이제 MVP 경기
for the rest of the
롤
season.
봐주셨으면 좋을 것 같아요.
Thank you very much.
고맙습니다. 이렇게 해서 MVP의 두 명의 선수를 만나봤습니다. 정말 개막전다운 멋진
So
장면들을
this will
만들었던
be
이두
the
명의
end of the
선수에게
interview
다시
with
한번 큰 박수
Ian and
부탁드리겠습니다.
Yondu from MVP, and I'll pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Welcome back, guys.
Interesting stuff in that interview.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thank you for the translation, Ji-sun. Yeah, MVP, they get the 2-0 victory. Really, really good stuff from them. I hope the next interviews are just as good.
We at Spo TV always bring
yeah.
you the finest in interviews and in cool overlays. Speaking of overlays, this one's a pretty good one to read for MVP fans. 2-0 +2.
They're
Couldn't
in
ask for
first
more.
place for the first time ever.
Hey, you'll take what you can get when you played in
know.
relegations, Valdez.
They made some progress, and well, we didn't get this far in the rehearsal, but we'll see what happens here. I'm not sure, guys, but as you guys know, if you've been watching LCK for a long time, we are going to take a long break, about an hour and 14 minutes. So go out and get some snacks. I'm not sure, but join us back at that time for Griffin versus Hanwha Life Esports, and we'll see you guys. Oh, we're not going just yet. Actually, just got the
Savor
word.
it, Valdez. Savor it.
You know, that was such a great series to start off on, and then the interview made it even better. We're just innovating on new levels. But either way, guys, we are going to be back, actually. 74 minutes. We'll see you guys then.
I see you always wanna go somewhere to waste your golden soul.
It's been many days, many ways misled, knowing that I'm tiptoeing on both sides of the fence, trying to figure it out, but I'm living in doubt. So scared one day that your grace might run out, cause I'm so far from perfect, so close to worthless, feeling no good for worship, trying to understand this life that you purchased. Am I just a man destined for death, or do I deserve it? You died for my sins and that's the verdict. You carried out God's true will and purpose with urgency for the sake of love, forgiveness and eternity. Your grace is enough. I got so many questions, so many things to change. I'm calling out, but sometimes you're far away. I get discouraged and seem to always fall flat, but that's when you pick me up and bring me back.